This is DynamoDB series, and so far it's been about table and index design. This time, we call the API from code against one small feed and watch what each call costs and how it works. The client API can look a pile of methods you are supposed to memorize. It gets a lot smaller once you see the shape underneath. Almost every call comes down to three questions. Are you touching one item or many? Does the change need to be all or nothing? And is it a read or a write? Answer those three, and you land in one cell of a small grid, where each cell is a read paired with its write. GetItem with PutItem for a single item, the patch pair for many at once, and the transaction pair when it has to be atomic. Query and scan sit just outside the grid as the two ways to find items, and they carry the pagination and cost lessons coming up. Reach for the wrong one, and you either pay for data you never asked for or lose a guarantee you needed. To make this real, here is the setup we will run against. A small NestJS app on one side, one DynamoDB table on the other, holding a tiny feed for 3 users. The app talks to it through the SDK document client, so requests and responses are plain objects with no attribute value wrappers on screen. Everything lives in one table, keyed by a partition key and a sort key. The partition key is the user, and the sort key is either their profile or a post stamped with its timestamp. Alice has 12 posts, Bob has 3, and Carol has 2. 20 items in all, and post A3 is the one we will keep coming back to. The one habit every call keeps is asking DynamoDB to report what it consumed. That number comes back on every response, and it is the meter we will read for the rest of the video. Every number on that meter comes from two rulers. Reads are measured in 4 kilobyte blocks, and writes in 1 kilobyte blocks. DynamoDB always rounds an item up to the next whole block, so a tiny post still costs a full block, and a 10 kilobyte item rounds up to 12. That block size is the sum of every attribute name and value in the item, keys included. On top of the block, the kind of read sets the rate. An eventual consistent read of one block is half a unit. A strongly consistent read is a full unit, and a read inside a transaction is 2. Writes follow the same idea. 1 unit per block on a normal write, and 2 per block inside a transaction. One naming note: since our table is on demand bills these as read and write request units instead of capacity units, but the amounts are identical, and the field the API returns is still called capacity units. So far, any call you can work it out in advance. Take the item size, round it up to a block, and multiply by the rate for that kind of read or write. Let's watch that play out, starting with the cheapest call there is. The cheapest call is reading a single item by its key. GetItem takes the full primary key, the partition key, and the sort key together. The partition key drops you into one partition, then the sort key picks the exact item inside it. It's a point lookup, so a miss comes back empty rather than as an error. The call passes the table name and that full key, and it asks for the consumed capacity back so the price is visible. What comes back is the one item, post A3, and the shape you get is exactly what you stored. The consumed capacity reads half a unit, which is the floor for reading a small item. That read is eventually consistent by default, which is why it costs half a unit. Turn consistent read on when you need the very latest write, and the same read costs a full unit. That is the first lever you control, and it doubles the price of every read you point it at. Writing one item is the mirror image, and that is PutItem. You hand it a complete item, and it writes to the key you give it. In our case, a new post in Alice's partition. If something already lived at that key, this new version would replace it completely. A small post rounds up to a kilobyte, so it costs a single write unit. The call takes the table name and the full item, keys and all, and asks for the consumed capacity back. The write succeeds at 1 capacity unit, which is the floor for a write. Notice there is no condition on it, and that is exactly why it would overwrite. Because PutItem overwrites by default, a careless call can quietly whip an existing post. Add a condition like attribute not exist on the sort key, and the write refuses unless the item is genuinely new. Run it again on the same key, and it comes back as 409 with nothing overwritten. What if you need several items at once? BatchGetItems take a list of keys, up to 100 of them, and fetches them in one call instead of a round trip each. Here we pull a post from Alice and one from Bob and one from Carol, and they ride out together. The call groups the keys by table under request items and asks for the consumed capacity back. 3 items come back in the response map, and the meter lands near 1.5 unit, which is just the 3 half unit reads added up. The catch is that batch is not a transaction. If DynamoDB cannot return every key in one go, it hands the leftovers back under unprocessed key for you to retry, and you still pay only for the reads it actually did. The right side is BatchWriteItem, and it comes with tighter limits. It takes up to 25 puts or deletes in a single call, and it cannot run conditions or updates, only straight puts and deletes. Here, 3 new posts slide into Bob's drawer at once for 3 write units. Each item is a put request under the table name, and the response comes back with an empty, unprocessed item, so all 3 landed. The meter reads 3 units, 1 for each item written. Bob ends up with 3 new posts, but his post count never moved. A patch cannot touch a second item to keep a counter in step, and like the read side, it is not atomic, so any write it drops come back as an unprocessed items. So far, every read needed you to know the exact key. Query is the first call that finds the item for you. In the code, it is a query command with a key condition expression that pins the partition. Here is Alice's post, walked in sorted order. The limit in that command is the number DynamoDB evaluates before it stops, which is usually more than the number it returns. The response is the page, 5 items, a count, and a last evaluated key, the cursor that marks where it stopped. To get the next page, you take that last evaluated key and set it as the exclusive start key on the next query command. That single field is the whole pagination loop. The response's cursor becomes the next request start key. Page 2 pick up right where page 1 stopped, returns the next 5, and hands back a fresh cursor for about half a unit a page. You keep paging until the cursor comes back null. That empty cursor is the only reliable sign you have actually reached the end. Now add a filter expression and watch where it runs. DynamoDB reads the items the key and limit picked up, then filters them on its own side before handing the rest back. The limit still reads 5, so ScanItCount is 5 and filter drop it 3 and count is 2. You paid for all 5 because the filter runs after the read, so it never lowers the bill. It can even hand you an empty page and still set a cursor, so you loop on the cursor, never the count. You can page the feed, but in what order do the posts come back? In the code, it is the same query command, and the field that controls order is the ScanIndexForward. Leave it as true, the default, and DynamoDB walks the sort key ascending, which for our timestamp keys mean oldest first. The respawn carries the ScanIndexForward through, and the items come back A1 through A12. Flip that one field to false, which the app exposes as order descending, and nothing else in the command changes. The same query now returns the item reversed, newest first, for the same half unit. One boolean in the command flips the entire order. This ordering control belongs to query. A scan command has no ScanIndexForward field, so scan give you no say over the order. Query reads one partition cheaply. So what happens when you read the whole table? The differences is right there in the code. A query command carries a key condition expression that pins it to Alice's partition, while a scan command has no key condition at all, so it reads every item. On our tiny table, both responses come back at about half a unit, and that is worth being honest about. The response also reports ScanItCount, the number each call was built for. The gap only shows up as the table grows. Watch the item count climb toward 1,000,000, and keep an eye on the 2 meters and the ScanItCount underneath. Query keeps reading just Alice's 12 posts, so its meter barely moves. By 1,000,000 items, the scan response shows a ScanItCount of the whole table and a consumed capacity in the thousands of units. The query response still reads 12 and still costs half a unit. So scan is fine for a one-off or a tiny table, but a real lookup belongs to query. None of those reads were atomic across items. So when you need a consistent snapshot of more than one, you reach for a transaction. TransactGetItems reads up to 100 items as one atomic snapshot. Here, we pull a post and its author together, so they cannot disagree with each other. Each item is a get inside the TransactGetItems, and the whole call either reads consistently or not at all. Both come back together, the post and Alice's profile captured at the same instance. That snapshot isn't free. A transactional read costs double a strong one, so reading those 2 items is 4 units, where 2 plain reads would have been 2. The right side is where transaction earn their cost, and that is TransactWriteItems. It group up to 100 writes into one all or nothing change. Either every action lands or none of them do. This is the thing the patch couldn't do, creating a post and pumping Alice's post count in every same step. Each action sits inside the transaction items, a put for the new post, guarded so it cannot clobber, and an upgrade that increments the counter. Pull the lever and both land together. The post is created and the count moves from 12 to 13. The meter reads 4 units. Double a plain put and update, which is the price of the guarantee. Now run the exact same call a second time. The guard on the post trips its conditions, and because it is all or nothing, the entire transaction rolls back with a 409, so neither the post nor the counter changes. A client request token make it idempotent too, so a retry inside 10 minutes won't apply the change twice. Step back, and the whole API comes down to two questions. How many items are you touching, and does it need to be atomic? That picks the family. A single call, a patch for many at once, or a transaction when they all land together. Read or write picks the exact method. Walk one path and the cost falls out of it. One item, a write, and you land on a put item for a single unit. Many items, atomic, a read, and you land on TransactGetItems for 4. The cost rides along with the call, so once you can name it, you can size it before you ever run it. That is the DynamoDB client API end-to-end on one small feed. Name the call, predict the cost, and you can reason about any operation before you ever run it. If this helped, a like and a subscribe keep these deep dives coming.